Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and some more Pillage. So today we're going to be starting off a series of videos where we get into some basics of the game and then eventually into some more advanced concepts and everything as well. So today, like I said, we're going to just cover some of the absolute basics and some of the neat things with this system. So we're going to show here just real quickly and demonstrate some of the differences in movement for the game. And basically, depending on your equipment, that will also affect your speed. And it's a neat little system, right? So if you're bogged down with armor and shields and stuff like that, you're going to be moving slower. Whereas if you aren't wearing really any protective gear, you're going to be a little bit faster. And so the way that the game works it is we'll have an unarmed figure, a figure with some armor or a shield, and here a fully armored figure with, I don't know if the camera's really going to be picking that up super well here with the lighting, so I apologize for that, but we do have chainmail and a shield, so really that's considered full armor. So the unarmed guy on the right is actually going to be able to move 8. If it were cavalry, and we'll maybe show that in a separate video too, but unarmed cavalry will move 14. Some armor on the cavalry is also 14, and that's the neat thing there. The horse doesn't get slowed down by just having a little bit of armor. The guy in the middle with some armor, just the chainmail, no shield, in this case, moves 7, and then the guy with full armor would move 6. A fully armored horse would move 12. Still significantly faster than infantry, but even then the horse will get bogged down a little bit. So I've kind of already got this laid out for the maximum move here, right? So our fully unarmored guy is going to be able to slide down 8 inches if this were just like regular old terrain. The guy with some armor, and it's neat too, this little board here, why we're using it, because it has the actual squares built in. This is normally for like D&D and stuff, but pretty nice to illustrate the concept here. So real simple to understand, right? So they're going to be slightly different, but if we knock the middleman out, right, we're going to see that he's going to be a little bit slower here, right? And that just gives you, again, over time, right, over multiple turns, you're going to see a little bit of separation in just how far around the battlefield these guys can maneuver. Now, obviously, here we just chose a straight line to illustrate that simply. But once we start needing to do some more complex maneuvers as far as getting around real terrain, like let's say these were trees, actual trees getting in the way, and we'd have to snake our way around, but more often than not in Pillage, right, we're going to be dealing with little villages, stone walls, gaps in those walls, maybe even little rivers and bridges and stuff like that. So over time, that extra little bit of movement will obviously come into play, but again, at the cost of any actual protection. So, and again, over time, the horses will do that as well. Now, one thing that we can't show here just because we didn't have the terrain ready for this video, but if you're traveling on road, you actually get to move a little bit faster, right, as opposed to slogging it through a muddy field or something like that, or just a little bit rougher terrain. So basically, infantry on roads will get another +2 movement, and a lot of the scenarios will have little roads and paths and stuff. So again, another boost there. So just a flat +2, regardless of what the infantry has on. So this fully armored dude is actually going to get boosted to +8, and that brings in some of the neat strategy with the game, right? So if you're setting up your forces and maneuvering, but also keeping in mind what the scenario requires, it might make sense to position a lot of your heavily armed troops on the road just so they can get that movement boost. Now they're moving 8 like a regular unarmored dude, but on the other hand, the guy that's moving 7 is going to go 9, and the somewhat armored guy, but again, you don't want to necessarily cluster your whole force on the road either. Let's the enemy maybe outmaneuver you. But then the unarmored guy is almost going to be moving as fast as a horse. So 10 inches on road. So you can definitely advance pretty quickly, get into some good positions ahead of the enemy, especially if, maybe where they have roads on their side of the board. It might not necessarily be in the best spot depending on how the road snakes its way across the board. So there's a lot of little things around, who you put on the road, where is it going to lead you, when do we break away from that to, deal with scenario things or oncoming enemies, etc. And then same thing, cavalry now is where it gets scary on the roads, guys. A +4 bonus to movement range, right? So that 12 already is going to be 12 and 14 is going to be super fast. Cavalry's just going to zip all over the board there. So again, they'll be on you more often than not pretty quickly should you venture on the roads. But of course, there's things we can do to mitigate in cavalry. And in a lot of cases, just because of how expensive cavalry is, you probably won't see that many Although again, be wary of someone who's building a full force around that, and they'll be able to rush you pretty quickly. So that's just a quick, super basic overview of the movement concepts there. We can get into more things when we deal with terrain and other stuff, but just wanted to highlight those two main points because your gear, as always in Pillage, will largely determine what you're going to do, and it's just a neat little simple but elegant system on how that affects you, and will come into play, of course, with shooting and close combat and stuff as well. That'll be in a separate video. So for now, thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. We'll have more Pillage for you very soon.